Right, so we're going to take a quick look at configurations and how you use them inside Solidworks. In a nutshell, configurations allow you to store slightly different versions of a part without generating multiple part files for each different variation. So it allows you to store all these variations within a single part file. So if you look at this part that we've got here, it's a simple extruded profile. This one happens to be in aluminium, so it's created just using a sketch on a plane and then just simply extruding that sketch by a specified length. And what's been done in this part file is multiple configurations of this part have been generated. You can see them up here in the configuration manager, and all that happens in the different configurations, if we activate them one by one, is the length of the extrusion changes. So that's one way that you can modify the part and store it. Another way that you can modify it is you can suppress features or unsuppress features. So we've got the different length versions of this part. We've also got one with a cut through and another tubular section of aluminium poking through the first extrusion. So we set that up by creating the feature in a new configuration and then setting the feature to be suppressed in certain configurations. So this configuration here has the feature suppressed, so it's not present, and if we flick back to the one that we were just looking at, this one has it unsuppressed. So we can use that feature and we can see the geometry. So we'll just take a little look next at a very simple case, and we'll learn how to use the configuration manager a little bit more. So if we just create a new part, just a standard part, and then we'll quickly just draw a block. We'll just make it rectangular in cross section. We'll put some dimensions on this. We'll say 200 by 100. OK, and then extrude that to make a block. We'll extrude it by 60. And then maybe put some holes running through the block as well. So we'll sketch on this plane. We'll put a hole up here, and again we'll dimension that so that we can position it and size it. So just put some dimensions in there, and dimension here as well, and then we'll put in a length dimension. So there we go. We've fully dimensioned the sketch. It's been locked down to that position and that size. So if we OK that and create an extruded cut, and we'll extrude it through to next, so it goes through to the underside of the block. So there you go. We've got a pretty simple part there. Now if we want to create a modified version of this part, the first thing that we do is we activate the configuration manager, and then we've got the default part active at the moment. We want to create a new configuration of this part. So if you right click in this free space below and click on add configuration, and then we'll give the config a name. So we'll give it the name of new config 1, and you can see that this new config has been activated by default upon its creation. So we can flick between these two configs at any point by double clicking on one of the configs. So we're back in the default config again, and if we double click on the new config, we're back editing the new config again. So the first thing that we can do in configurations is we can modify dimension values and store them with that configuration. So if you want to just edit the sketch which defines the size of the block. So we go here into the original extrude, right click, edit sketch, and let's say we're going to change this 200 here. So if we double click on it to edit, and then before we do actually change that, if you want to click on the arrow here, and you can select which configuration you're editing. So in this case we just want to modify this configuration, not all configurations. So if you select that option, and then you can modify that value, let's say 300. OK, so you can see the blocks lengthened quite considerably. Now if we just check that that's been applied correctly, go back into the configurations tab and double click on the default, and you can see that the part jumps from the long setting that we just entered there, the 300, back to the 200 in the default part. So we've stored two versions of the same part in a single part file, so that's fine. And you can do that with all the dimensions that govern the part. So the width of this block, the length of the block, the depth of the block can be changed, as well as all the dimensions that govern the slot that we've cut through there as well. They can all be edited per configuration, so you can create multiple versions of a part quite easily and quite quickly. Another way to use configurations, rather than just modifying values of features, is to actually turn features on and off using the suppress feature option. So we'll create a new config again, add config, and we'll call it new config 2. So again, we're in this config, this is the one that we're editing. And then if we go back into the feature tree, we can right click on the feature. So we're going to right click on this through hole feature, right click, and go down to the configure feature option. So at the moment, what this graphic here is showing us is that the current feature is present in all the configurations, because it's not been suppressed in any of them. Now what we want to do is we want to suppress it in the configuration that we're working on. So this config 2, if you just click the tick box, and that says that's suppressed in configuration 2. So if we OK that, and you can see that it disappears because we're currently viewing configuration 2. Now if we go back to config 1 or the default, it's there again. So that's pretty much it for configurations.